Yep, go for it.
Today I'm going to be talking about how basically my journey through getting started in research and what I've been doing since I got started. Um, and I guess I'll start from the very beginning. And where my love of science was actually sparked by my second grade teacher, because she always had us doing hands on experiments, taught us the importance of, I guess, recording everything that we saw or did, and also embracing mistakes as long as we learn from them. And this passion for science stuck with me to the point where when science fair opportunities first opened up at my school, I immediately took it, more than just a school project, but really to start exploring things that I had questions about. And in fact, was um, my first ever research project was an extension of a second grade class experiment we did regarding polymer balls. And then ever since then, I mean, it really just took off because I had still had so many questions to answer, and I had so many things I wanted to do. So now, 9 years later, here I am with not only several science fair projects, but also now a published research paper. But of course, the 9 years took a lot of work and reiterations. Um, Interestingly, the process of getting started in research actually mirrors the actual process of doing research and experiments itself. First of all, you have to research ahead of time the background and what you have to do to get started. So, namely, how to enter these kinds of opportunities. Are they offered through your school system, or is it something like you have to register independently for as an individual student? As well as knowing things like your safety procedures and guidelines, so that way you can follow all the rules to the letter, and also knowing where you can conduct experiments. For example, me coming from a rural area, I frequently use a home lab to conduct my experiments, and I also have to know what experiments am I allowed to conduct in my settings. And since I kind of just dived head first, and there wasn't really a precedent for this kind of thing in my area, I actually also went through a lot of different trial and error and reiterations over the years. So I was constantly revising my reports in response to like what my teacher said, the competition judges, and other experts had to say about the content I was producing. And at the same time, these same people also gave me new opportunities by telling me about new opportunities that I could enter not only to compete but also to learn from and gain more experience. And actually, all these iterations are um, what helped me bring my projects up to a higher level, and thankfully being recognized by USTEM 2030 for for publishing in the research journal USTEM Matters. Um, and I mean, when it comes to the actual process of getting started in research, I do have to say that um, getting started with any research project, even if it's your first time, is in the beginning, to never be afraid of what you want to do. Always have that clear goal in mind, but also be open to new influences and new influences and new inspirations. For example, back in seventh grade was the first time I did a project creating alternate materials to plastics. And I was actually inspired by my leftover food, broken rice, where I realized that because of our on the go lifestyle, we ended up having wasted rice during certain parts of the year that would just be thrown away. And then normally people may see that waste as simply a waste to be garbaged. But then I happen to start thinking, what about if it was more than a waste? And that's what started me in what's now 6 years of developing alternate materials to plastic. And upcycling various waste from my daily life has opened my eyes to also a circular economy. Well, the benefits of a circular economy, where no waste is useless. Rather, it's simply a resource that's waiting to find its right niche. So that kind of simple little thing anything really can take you a lot of different places. So always be open to exploration and always be open to exploration and I guess um, never never really while in the brainstorming process, never really criticize any idea because no idea is truly bad. You just have to find the right context for it to fit together with all the other knowledge and resources that you have. Um, and I mean, of course, there always be difficulties in research, I will say. Um, as I mentioned, I come from a rural area, and there's also not much precedent for doing these kinds of things in my area. So as a result, I may not have access to a lot of resources that certain other people may have, but I found that to overcome this, communication is the key thing. If you keep reaching out to your teachers or any expert contacts you might have on potential resources and equipment, then it actually opens up a lot of doors for you uh, to find new avenues for conducting your research. And at the very least, even if they can't provide tangible resources and equipment, you can still draw upon them and ask them to advise you and say, hey, this is what I plan to do based on your knowledge base. What do you think? And even just getting advice like that can take you a really long way. That's not to say, of course, that you have to only rely on the experts because you can also use your own ingenuity. For example, I've actually repurposed materials at home to conduct my experiments, especially with the pandemic closing down like my school labs and a lot of other laboratory facilities. I ended up taking a lot of unused home appliances or even some basic equipment I had on hand and repurposed them to conduct experiments equivalent to standardized testing. For example, in conducting materials testing for tensile strength, I repurposed a digital force gauge in order to conduct my testing that way and was able to show comparable results to regular plastics. Another thing I have to say is even if, let's say, you feel that you're alone in research, which honestly, you're never alone in research, which is why I actually find communication through social media to be a big part of staying connected with other students. Um, Social media and networking for me has enabled me to find other people around the world that's also passionate about STEM, about research, and about changing the world for the better in general. And it's a great way to not only not keep yourself in the loop about new things coming up, but also to keep yourself motivated because then you know you're not the only one. You're part of this global team. And especially when connecting with fellow youth, I have to say it's always great to see how there's so much hope for the future through research, especially because then you can really connect with real life examples of, I guess, role models how you kind of want to be, but also at the same time, put yourself out there and hope that you can inspire other people as well. So, and I will have to say that um, I I do have to say that regardless of who you are, where you are, what your resources are, um, to get started in research, you just have to have that passion, that idea, and to be in to be involved. It's not about it's not about what you already have to get you started in research. It's about what your goals are for the future. You don't have to be a genius with Einstein level IQ or devote like all 100% of your time to research. As long as you have that goal and that drive to keep working at it, to keep asking questions, exploring, and working on making a difference, then you can you can go a lot of places with research.
Thank you for that amazing presentation.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Absolutely inspiring and fantastic message. And you're getting a lot of those sorts of messages in the chat as well. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for letting me share my message. So yeah.
Happy to have you.
Of course.